Hello world, DB here, live from the 2K booth at E3, and we are here with Mafia 3. I'm here today with Matthias Worch, and absolutely no beyond vanilla pronunciation of your name there. So apologies for that. Please go ahead and tell us who you are and what you do at Hangar 13.
So yeah, Matthias Worch. I'm the design director at Hangar 13 and pretty much responsible for all of the game design. But this is such a big game, right? We're making an open world game. We have several lead designers, and they're responsible for the underlying gameplay systems, for driving, for designing the city, for making sure the missions are really good, for making sure the open world is populated correctly. So those guys are really doing all the work. They're actually responsible for all that, and I'm kind of trying to bring all of that together and making sure we're all on the same page.
Okay, so safe to say that, as you alluded to there at the end, all on the same page, making sure all those elements fit together nice and cohesively in the world.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it.
Okay, very cool. So we've had some great questions all week long. We had Hayden and Andy in here previously. We've been doing some live streams from the booth. We did a booth tour. We shared the live band yesterday. We'll be covering the second line procession today as well. As doing a little taste test at the food truck that we have here. We have a new Bordeaux-inspired food truck with some fried gator and jambalaya there, which we're giving away to fans over in the West Hall. So very cool stuff going on here at E3. But let's get into it. I want to see your questions. And since we have the pleasure of having Matthias here, and as he just mentioned, he is the overseer of the game design for Mafia 3. What kind of questions you have about these systems going on in Mafia 3? Let's see what you got in questions. We've got hello from the Czech Republic, so that's pretty awesome. Hello, hello. All right, so let's see here. Let's go as much as you can talk about the map and what goes on in there. It's a big map, and you're not just tied to specific missions, right? You can cruise around a little bit, do some things.
Yeah, you can go wherever you want to. You can drive wherever you want to. So we want to make sure we're really taking advantage of the open world this time around. So we're going to have 3 hours of cutscenes telling a really good story, right? And there's going to be really awesome missions. If you've been watching the video we're showing at this E3, you're seeing like a steamboat or a riverboat mission. Like that's one of those big set pieces. But to actually get to that, we want to make sure that you actually get to use the open world to make a dent in the world. So the entire story is set up as a revenge tale where you're not just trying to go after Salmarcano, who's this big mafia, like Italian mafia the boss in the city. You actually swear to yourself that you're not just going to cap him in the head. You're going to systematically dismantle his operations. And to do that, so we have 9 districts plus the Bayou, and all of those districts actually have crime activities in there. And we're actually trying to we're actually modeling to the street level how that crime works in the city. So any of the money that Salmarcano ultimately sees, you actually get to see how that low-life criminal at the absolute ground level generates all of that money. So we have pimps, we have people who know too much, we have bagmen collecting that money, you got drug dealers and so on. And the way that the missions then work out is it happens by you hitting those crimes on the ground. You get to decide whichever way you want to do that. You get to structure that the way you want to do that. But as you're playing the open world, then you're not just playing either the story or the open world. You actually feel like you're making progress in the actual main story, because everything you're doing on the street level as you're playing the open world is contributing to the overall story.
That's very cool stuff. Thank you for that. And I know that that's been a big question as far as these Q&As we've been doing here. So let's see what we have here. Ibs, can you scroll up a little bit? I've been focused on the answers here, which have been phenomenal so far. Let's see what we got.
Something about perks we can talk about, 'cause that's
I saw a question about music beyond 1968. So one of the things about this game specifically and the Mafia franchise is keeping true to that time and place, that sense of time and place. I'm pretty sure I know the answer that there is nothing beyond 1968 because we want to stay true to that time period. But that's the case, right? We're staying true to things that come before 1968 and then in that same time period.
Yeah, pretty much, I think. I mean, the songs are all awesome, and we might have taken just a tiny bit of poetic license where I think we're set in the beginning of 68 or so, or in the middle. If there was a song that's just really awesome, but it came out at the end of 68, we might actually have put it in there. But
okay, so fair. By a month by month, maybe day by day basis, you might see stuff a little bit from the future there. All right, very cool. All right, we've got a question coming in hot. Can you talk more about the character of the districts of New Bordeaux and where the underbosses of Lincoln live and how that affects their character? Very good question.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have 9 districts plus the Bayou, as I mentioned. So all of those, New Bordeaux is pretty much our version of New Orleans, taking all of the best parts of it. And it's actually been pretty easy because New Orleans is not only just has a lot of character as a city, it also has a lot of diversity, right? So we do have something like the iconic French Ward because that's really what you kind of think of when you're thinking of New Orleans as a tourism town. Right. So if you're thinking about that, and that's the reason why people go there, they're going there to party. That's where Mardi Gras happens. So you're going to see maybe like when you then dig into the criminal underground, you're going to see prostitution, you're going to see drug trafficking, you're going to see sex parties and those kind of things. But New Orleans is also it's a trade city, right? It's like at the end of the Mississippi Delta, so there's a lot of trade coming through there. So another district might be the actual shipping dock, like the shipping district of the city, and you might see smuggling. We have a dock union where anybody who's working on the docks has to join a union, and that's ripe, of course, for mafia involvement because they're going to try to keep people in line. But so there are 9 people who are in charge of these 9 districts. It's pretty much modeled the way that a normal, mafia like pyramid would actually be like set up in a city like that. So there are 3 capos. This is the Marcano family. New Orleans is actually like one of the oldest crime towns in America, right? And we had like a lot of Carlos Marcello is one of these like infamous crime bosses we've had in America. So Sal Marcano is very much modeled after that. And what's interesting about this specific family, just like it was in real life, is that they had completely free reign. It was just one family, like just doing whatever they wanted and controlling the city. So all of his capos are actually part of the family. So, it's 2 of his brothers or, and then somebody who's very close to that. Yeah. And then we have 6 additional guys who, are running the individual districts. There's like the Dixie Mobs trying to take care of one of them. There's an accountant who's running all of the books. You're going to meet all of those people when you're actually playing the game.
Very cool stuff. Thank you so much for that. So in Mafia 3, you do have the lieutenants for Lincoln, rather, Vito, Cassandra, and Burke. Mm-hmm. And they provide some very interesting accessories and things when you start cozying up to them. The question from the chat is, what is your favorite perk or service or accessory that the lieutenants have to offer?
I generally tend to like the ones that really allow me to kind of undermine the social structure of the city. Where you feel like, wait a second, this shouldn't be possible. So, you can do things like calling off the cops if you get an associate at the local police department. I actually like the associate at the phone company. So if you know the right dispatcher, we're in 68, so when you made a call back then, there might still have been somebody who actually had to make that connection manually. Right. And if you can bribe that person, you can make sure calls don't go out. And that's something that's really useful, because imagine, like in 1968, you start shooting things up on the street. People aren't just going to call the cops. We actually have a persistent police system who are patrolling the city. And if a cop isn't right there, somebody has to run to the phone booth and then try to call the cops. So if I don't want to deal with trying to take this guy out before he reaches the phone booth, I might call my associate at the phone company and just say, you know what, any phone call about this that's going out right now, make sure that doesn't actually go out. And I just feel kind of smug, like in a really good way, because like I think like that's part of what the Mafia is. Like you're able to do stuff by having people in your pocket that shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, that's very cool. All right, let's see what you guys have. Let's see what you guys got. I did see some more questions about Joe, and in our previous Q&As, basically how this is addressing conversation is that there are some loose ends from Mafia 2 specifically that you guys have been asking about. And as Hayden has alluded to before, these loose ends will be not loose ends anymore in Mafia 3, including Joe. So that's basically the answer to that, right? Because we don't want to give too much away, but what do you have to say on that?
No, I would just say that the entire development team wants to know what happened to Vito after he had to leave Empire Bay, because he know that ending, he had to leave. He didn't have any more friends, but we all wanted to know what happened to Joe as well. And Vito's been wanting to know what happened to Joe for the last 12 or 13 years. So, you know, you got two really strong allies there and wanting to know what happened to him. So there's probably going to be some good information.
Okay, very cool. So as you addressed earlier, this Sunday, we were on the IGN live show. I got to show off a very cool trailer as well as some brand new gameplay. You guys have been asking for gameplay, and there was 20 minutes or so of brand new gameplay there. Very cool stuff, and as Matthias mentioned, some insight into some of the systems there as far as taking down the rackets and so forth there. What was your favorite part of what we showed on Sunday? What did you get like the most excited about what we were able to share?
I'm really happy we get to show the sit-downs now.
Okay.
Which is like you trying to keep peace within your own family that you're building up. So you got these three underbosses, Cassandra, Burke, and Vito. They're not necessarily friends, but you can actually get them loyal to you. You have to be very diplomatic to make sure everybody stays happy. Because in the end, the only reason they're in it with you is because they think this is their in. This is how they will actually finally get some power and some control over the city. And that's the promise you make from the beginning. So if you're now sitting in one of these sit-downs and everybody's shuffling for power, they're trying to bribe you in certain ways, but also you're just looking into what getting them to the top would mean, because those associates I just talked about are actually ways, it's pretty much their upgrade tree, right? Like they'll be able to meet more people and get more people in their pocket if you're giving them more power. And making all of those decisions and actually figuring out how to keep everybody happy if you want to do that is really cool. And then, of course, the consequences behind it, because we wanted to make sure then this can go all the way. So what we've shown this week, for example, and this was one specific playthrough, right, just like tailored for this one, is that Burke had enough, and he betrayed us in this specific playthrough. But that's a very personal thing. That might not happen in anybody else's playthrough. If everybody loves Burke, he's never going to betray anybody in the entire world. But when a betrayal like this does happen, it's going to feel like really intensely personal, because you're going to remember all of those decisions you made that actually led to this. You might be questioning yourself, and you might just say, you know what, this is totally fine. But I think players are going to find themselves in those decisions.
That's really cool. And something you touched on was that a lot of the fans have asked, like, why would these three lieutenants want to work for Lincoln? And a huge factor of that is that personal gain, that personal motivation of those lieutenants, and realizing that they could potentially come out on top if they ride this wave of destruction through the city. It's a very cool point. Is this a question about Playboy being in the game? So we just very recently confirmed that Playboy collectibles will be back in Mafia 3, and we will have more information very soon on how many of them will be in the game and so on and so forth, but very excited to have these collectibles back in the game. All right. Here's a question which is really cool. It makes me excited because scroll down a little bit there. It's the Cuba question. So the question is, who lives in Empire Bay, Little Italy 25? The address is on the letters. These are the postcards on our Facebook. So this makes me very excited that you're asking this question. You're checking out this content that we're putting out there on Facebook and Twitter. And what we've been doing there on our social channels and, of course, on our website is trying to give you guys some content before the game comes out that not only alludes to some of these loose ends that you've been asking about, but also gives some story into the in-between Mafia 2 and Mafia 3. So those postcards specifically are from Vito to Leo Galante back in Empire Bay. And so it's basically Vito, and as Matthias mentioned, even the devs in the studio are like, what's been going on with Vito? We want to know these things too, right? So this is a little bit of information onto what Vito's role is in New Bordeaux and how he got there. So very cool, and thanks for the question, and much appreciated for the support on our content there on social media. All right, so let's see what else we have. Is the voice actor for Vito the same as Mafia 2?
Yes, of course, has to be.
Has to be, absolutely, love it. All right, let's see what we
So
have.
it's just the voice actor, actually, right? So it's something we can talk about very quickly. Like this time, it wasn't just all the actors coming in and doing the voices. It was full body motion capture.
Yeah.
All of the cutscenes we see were completely acted out, and we actually had all of the actors in the same room when they were doing this. So I think that's one of the reasons why the cutscenes are going to look so good.
It's very cool. I noticed Uncle Lou. He was actually in the TV show Friday Night Lights, which was like American football high school TV show that I really enjoyed. And I saw him in there, and it's amazing just how well it captures his person in there. So very cool stuff. All right. So, when does the game come out?
We're coming out October 7th, so we're going to be on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC. And we're going to be localized, like fully localized to several languages. It's something you should probably figure out. Just look on our social media presence. You're going to find all that information.
All right, very cool. Let's see here. We have questions about the soundtrack. We haven't released the full soundtrack yet, but if you are familiar with Mafia soundtracks, I would say this is a soundtrack to be very excited about.
Yes, so for one, we have said that we have over 100 licensed songs. Every single song that we see in these trailers and gameplay videos are definitely going to be in the game. We're going to make a full announcement of all of them. The other thing I'm really excited about with this music is, well, we're actually going to the world capital of jazz, right? So there's going to be a lot of jazz that you can hear. And we also have this Dirty Blues, which was recorded specifically for this game, which we hear for all of the in-game music. So if you're checking out the gameplay video that we're showing right now, there's some really cool, just like combat music and sneaking around music as well.
I love it. So we, as I mentioned before, we did a live show on IGN this Sunday. There's a brand new trailer from that. There's also 20 minutes or so of brand new gameplay. Those are on all of our channels. So they're on our YouTube channel, they're on Facebook and Twitter. So you could definitely check those out right now as well. All right. What do we have here? What do we got, Ibs?
Because I do see it, we might just tell everybody that yes, Vito is definitely in the game.
Yeah. Any questions about Vito being in the game? This is confirmed. Also, we still see some questions coming in about Joe, even though we've covered it a few times now. Your questions about Joe will be answered in Mafia 3. As far as questions, I am seeing some questions about stuff that we just haven't covered yet. As a dev studio and as a publisher, and some of that stuff you'll just have to wait and see what we have. There's a question about gators.
There are definitely gators, so if you're swimming around, you got to be careful that they don't surprise you, sneak up on you. There's also a way to take bodies that you might have taken out, throw them into the water. It's a really good way to get rid of dead bodies.
Very cool. All right. Let's see what we got. We've got time for a few more questions, yeah?
One more.
Oh, we've got time for one more question. Make it good, guys. All right. Yeah? Yeah. All right. So we have a question about the weather, and we have the right gentleman here to talk about the weather in Mafia 3.
I actually like talking about it because
All right.
both it's like one of these things where the entire company has to come together. The rendering guys made a really good cloud system for us. The artist came up with really good light settings. So of course we have a full day-night cycle, and that actually affects the city and how many people are out. When it starts raining, people get their umbrellas out and so on. But it also affects the car handling, right? So if I'm driving in the rain, that's going to change quite a bit how things are driving. Well, one of my favorite moments in this game is just going into the bayou and a hurricane strikes. Because if you're in the middle of the bayou and the clouds, which are fully volumetric, like roaring overhead, and the rain is coming down, and you hear the wind just like whipping all of the trees around, it's just one of those things I haven't seen in any other game, and it's actually like really romantic. And then of course you're driving through the bayou, and there's a gator like swimming over there, and it's just one of those moments when you feel like, wow, like Louisiana is really cool, and New Bordeaux is a really cool place.
Very cool. All right, that's going to wrap up our live stream here, our dev Q&A here from the 2K booth, the Mafia 3 booth at E3 2016. Matthias, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for stopping by.
Thank you so much for your questions, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us today on the stream. As I mentioned before, we are going to be coming up with 2 more live streams for you today from E3. We're going to go and follow the second line procession around, so you can see that firsthand live here on Facebook Live. And we're also going to do a little taste test at the food truck with some fried gator and jambalaya here in a bit. So very excited to show you guys that stuff as we are here on day 3 of E3. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and we will see you very soon.